kind of workshop conference to give you some background. But first of all, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here at Brunel University in our Artaud Performing Arts Center. The Artaud Forum is an idea of conceptualizing perhaps for us a challenge to in fact investigate theater, performance, new media art, artistic practices, cultural practices in perhaps a sense of reflection backwards. The former head of school, Professor Steve Dixon, wanted this building named after Antonin Artaud. And when I asked him, but no one is really doing any Artaud scholarship here, he said, well, we don't need to do specific scholarship, but Artaud has had such a tremendous influence on many practices 20th century that I think it's a great honor for us to dedicate the building to this memory and perhaps find an inspiring connection to the multiple work that Artaud has created. And I myself am just rediscovering some of the work that Artaud did, for example, in film and in sound. And I hope that a couple of our speakers will actually address a little bit connection between Artaud's work and the contemporary arena. But the contemporary practice is what is, at the heart of this conference. And the idea of the workshop was to bring together practitioners and scholars and researchers to spend time together. So it's not an academic conference, but more sort of an end-to-end tour, a meeting where we can work together. It started last night with the sonic art students that Carl Faria teaches here. They worked throughout the year on their final performance pieces, and yesterday Carl, in a sense, formed an ensemble with them. We also had a guest artist singing with them, Jennifer Walsh, and the students presented a 60-minute sonic concert, which was very, very beautiful and interesting to observe how young people in their 19, 20, 21 years old are imagining performance today through the language of electroacoustic and digital sound. So this year, compared to last year, the emphasis shifts a bit to sound, and I want to just spend 2 minutes on last year so that those of you who didn't know about us last year see the background of the first forum, which happened exactly a year ago, and at that point my company that's based here at Brunel had established strong connections with artists in Japan. The Fukushima tragedy had just happened with the nuclear disaster and tsunami, so we welcomed some of our Japanese friends here and dedicated the conference to the memory of Kazuo Ono, who had died just previously. And so the workshop last year looked into the meeting points between Western, African, and Japanese dance and theater traditions. And we worked together for the whole weekend. And what I found particularly exciting was that we all of the 35 people who came, worked physically as well as took part in the roundtable discussions, exchanged positions, critical thinking, ideas, and also some of them, if they are practitioners, researchers, introduce some of their work. So in the roundtables, the idea is that we have brief positions, we will speak about the ideas of their work, and a few moments perhaps with slightly longer presentations, and we will begin this morning with Peter Verstappen. So before I introduce Peter, Carl, it's not a good title, is it? It was meant to be a small wordplay on an interest we saw in the last year or so among our students, and also perhaps in the sound art world, when certain new technologies appear, perhaps or in the way the social network has developed, and we have Marlon Barrio Solano with us, who's a social network and platform producer. We are in fact live streaming this event, so it's a great pleasure to have you here. And thank you, Carl, thank you, Daniel Pilger, for helping me to think through this weekend. And I asked Carl, why don't you invite some of your perhaps peers or interesting musicians, and Daniel, why don't you invite artists that you would find challenging for us here? And I invited a few scholars and practitioners. So we invited a group of people, and some of you voluntarily came to join us. So you saw the announcement and you registered. So we welcome all of you. And it will be a small, intimate group of about 40 people. And that's good because that allows more contact time, more engagement with one another. The subplot here is one new tool, which is perhaps really irrelevant for the conference, but it has attracted the attention of some of our students, and this is the Konnecting, issued by Export. Microsoft, forget, Anyway, it's being hacked into and adapted, and last night, if you were here, two young musicians performed their music with their hands. And that's just a small aspect of the notion of gesture. I'm of course interested in a wider range of the concept of gestures, and also what would distinguish a sonic gesture from other gestures that we communicate with or that we express ourselves with, and of course this includes the theatrical media, but also social media. And not to forget that in a way we are in a moment of, I'm hearing this now more and more, the era of precariousness, and of instability, and of course of uprisings and economic crisis that have led to movements that we have seen in many, many cities in the world. Good morning, please welcome, join us. So the Occupy movement, if one can make that reference to a political phenomenon, is of course also a set of gestures and interferences into protocols, and therefore I think looking back one more time to Artaud, the gesture of self-portraiture or drawing, of course, in a way is also a scream at times, a reaching out, and an address. And he drew some of these drawings when he was incarcerated in a mental asylum. And when he was released, he only lived, I think, 1 or 2 more years, and he produced his most harrowing radio piece at the end, to do away with the judgment of God. And I'm interested in seeing whether we can keep in mind political gestures, and also perhaps what Daniel is proposing tomorrow with the guests that he invited, investigating superficial notions of technology and art, or technological aesthetics, and perhaps looking at the wider spectrum now of gesture and interaction. So I now like to introduce Peter Verstraete, our first guest. He is originally from the Netherlands, has taught and practiced in Exeter, at the University of Exeter, joined the drama department there in 2010, and he had finished his doctorate, written a really, really beautiful book on on the frequency of imagination, auditory distress, and orality in contemporary music theater. And by the way, Nick, are you here? Professor Nick Till. I just met Nick at the Heiner Goebbels conference last week, also on music theater. problematics of sound, and I'm interested in what you will say today. After being in Exeter, he decided it was time to move to Turkey, and I think he always had an interest in Turkish theater and culture. So now Peter lives in Ankara, and we welcome you back to Great Britain. And it's a great pleasure to welcome you here, and please join me in welcoming Peter.